Big up, people. How's it going? Hope you're well. I thought I'd do a preview tonight just for the Arsenal Wolves game tomorrow night. Seeing as it's the last one before the World Cup. But first of all, I want to thank everybody for getting me to over 6K subscribers. It's absolutely fantastic to hit that achievement. And big up Craig in the chat, who's obviously congratulating me as well. Says, Dan, big up. Congratulations on reaching 6K subscribers. We're up to 6.1 already. You lot are absolutely mad, and we're on the route to 7K. My target, to be honest, was to try and hit 10K by the end of the season. But thanks to you lot, hopefully I can get way over that now. So much love. Big up everybody in the chat. Big up everybody for watching on Catch Up and, of course, for watching live. Please get involved with the show. Smash your comments in. Let's talk team news. Let's talk results. Let's talk predictions. And let's see what we believe we need to take or need to do, should I say, to take 3 points against Wolves tomorrow night. It's always a tough place to go, Molyneux. It's never a stadium I enjoy playing at or going to because I just feel that they make it a real hard place to take any points, let alone 3. The good thing about it going into this game, in my honest truth, is that Arsenal are on good form and Wolves are a little bit inconsistent. They're without a manager. Obviously, Lopetegui will be taken over after the World Cup. So they've got Steve Davis in charge still as the interim head coach until that happens. I believe we can go in there with a little bit of confidence, quietly expecting to play similarly to the way that we did against Chelsea, and the fact that we are looking to have that style of football, which is, of course, attractive, but also when we look at things, those triangles that we're using at the moment, which we'll come on to in a little while, when I put the tactics board up, is really working well. And what I mean by triangles is last season we saw it a little bit. And actually in the last, I'd say 18 months, to be kind to Mikel Arteta, we've started to see it. The way that we're looking tactically now is that we're building triangles across the pitch. And the difference between us and other teams that do that similar play, other than Man City, you never quite know what the 11 is going to be on the other teams. And I think with Arsenal now, most people can name the Arsenal 11. So we all know that those triangles are going to be over on the left with Zinchenko and Xhaka and Martinelli, over on the right with Ben White, Saka and Ødegaard. And then, of course, Jesus is linking up now into those triangles left and right. And to be fair to him, you never quite know where he's going to link up. He seems to be all over the place at the moment. So that 1 to 11 that Arsenal normally put out is quite easy for people to predict. So I was watching the hybrid squad the other day with Kevin Campbell and Sophie Nicolau, who invited Jason Cundy on for the Chelsea preview. And he named that 1 to 11. He said, I can name the 1 to 11. The only position he said he's not too sure about is left back. Doesn't know if it's going to be Tierney, Tomiyasu or Zinchenko. Well, I think when everybody's fit, we can tell now that it is going to be Zinchenko. And I think it is vital into the way that Mikel Arteta wants to play in terms of an inverted fullback, but one that can actually be comfortable on the ball and do a little bit of everything. I think I've made it quite clear that I like Kieran Tierney there because I believe that he's all round, better defensively, good going forward, and is still learning that new inverted role, but is comfortable on the ball. I think Zinchenko just slots in there perfectly. And you saw it against Chelsea, didn't you? That he was basically playing in a midfield role for most of the game. It's mad how he just slots into that system. And, of course, knows it very well from Pep Guardiola's time and Arteta's time, should I say, at Manchester City. I feel personally, though, going into this Wolves game, that we are going to be under a little bit of pressure because we know that if we win, we're going to be top. If we lose and Manchester City win, then it could be a different story. And, of course, we don't want to be dropping points just before the World Cup because it'll feel like we have slipped up and need to bounce back, but I've got so long to wait until we bounce back. And I think a lot of the teams in their defence will be thinking that and feeling that way. When I look at what Wolves have done this season, it really has been inconsistent. I've not quite been sure about where they're trying to go with their style of play. They look to have players in and out the team all the time. I've never been able to put a 1 to 11 together for Wolves and been confident that that's going to be the case. And I've had to speak a couple of our Wolves contacts today to say, what you're going to go with is your 1 to 11. And they've been surprised as much as me to think, I'm not sure, Dan. There's going to be this or this happening. We've got an option at this position to go with him or him. We could change our formation and go with this or that. And that sometimes is frustrating as an opposition to know, what are they going to play? Are they going to go over 4-3-3? Are they going to have this player in midfield that sometimes we need to target? Is he going to be vital in the right-hand side as how they play? Are they going to go with this front three or is this going to be the target man? Sometimes it's been really, really difficult to understand what Wolves are going to be doing. I think if everybody's fit, they're looking at the Diego Costa and Raul Jimenez as being target men, but it looks like both of those are out. Diego Costa suspended, Raul Jimenez not ready at the moment. So they're going with He-Chan up front. Now, I think when you look at what's happening in the Wolves side at the moment, there is a lot of injuries. One of their best players, or in my opinion, their best player is Pedro Neto, and he's out yet again. Now, a lot of people were talking about him coming to Arsenal in the summer, saying that would be a fantastic signing. For me, as much as I like him, he needs to prove that he can stay in a season without injury before we look to get him. Because there's no point having someone who's going to play 5 games a season. And at the moment, I think he's played about that so far this season and into the last season as well. So we need to look at it seriously and understand where it is that Wolves can be hit at. But it is very difficult when you're not really sure what 11 they're going to put out. I think over the years at Molineux, we've had some good times and some bad times. Under Nuno Espirito Santos, Wolves were a side that were quite set up in their ways in terms of a three at the back, 2 wing backs, and then, of course, they had that target man up top in Raul Jimenez, who was on fire when he was there. Then they changed their ways and they went to Bruno Lage, and it started to be a little bit different on the ball. They actually played some really nice football towards the end of the season before last, where I thought, do you know what? They could even be in a race for Europe. But it turns out that they actually finished just about in the top half in the end, and they just dropped down. And to be fair to Bruno Lage, he couldn't quite pick it up, and that's where it was going wrong. And Wolves decided to part ways with him in the end. Since that, Wolves have been a little bit up and down. I've been surprised at some of their play. I think Nathan Collins coming in has given them a little bit of stability alongside Kilman at the back. But other than that, you're looking at Ruben Neves as one of their better players. Pedro Neto, as I've mentioned, is out. Adama Traore is one of those that can either be on fire or just disappear. Likewise, I think Daniel Podence has shown glimpses of quality. But when you look at that, I'm struggling with Wolves. Matinho is a great player with experience, but is he going to be playing as much at the age of, 33, 34, maybe even 35 now? So it's going to be interesting. But as far as Arsenal are concerned, guys, we know what the 11 is. We know what style of play we're going to get. We've got the momentum with us. And we know that if we win that game, we're top of the league until Christmas. And we can enjoy the World Cup, enjoy Happy Christmas, and go into the Boxing Day towards the new year, playing West Ham and Brighton, knowing that we're top of the league. Now, that is an unbelievable achievement in itself. And it's one that I don't think many Arsenal fans or Gooners around the world would have accepted as a reality. I think most people would have expected us to be in and around the top 4 race, along with the likes of Chelsea, Spurs, and Manchester United. But it's not turned out that way. Manchester City and Arsenal are the ones to beat. Newcastle are right behind us, playing very good football, 1 game a week. And then, of course, there's a fight for top 4 between Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, and Manchester United at the moment. So it's interesting. It's been a good start to the season as far as Arsenal are concerned, but actually overall it's been quite an exciting one. It's been interesting to see who's been the shock of the season. It's been interesting to see down the bottom who's perhaps not performed to the level that you expect. But more importantly, I think it's been a surprise that Arsenal have done what nobody expected them to do, and that's compete with Manchester City. Pep Guardiola has been heard in his latest, or one of his latest press conferences, say that we should be top of the league. With the points that we've got over the last few years, we should be top, but we're not because Arsenal have been better. And I know there's that stat about Newcastle in 1995 being the only team not to have won the league when they were in our position currently. I think when you look at stats like that, you need to just forget them and concentrate on the now and not worry about what did happen. Let's worry about what's happening right now. And right now, we need 3 points at Wolves. I think what's really interesting about this Arsenal setup at the moment is the front three. Now, I know that they're getting a lot of stick at the top moment in terms of they're not finishing their chances, but the creativity is there and the chances are being created. And I do think it's a matter of time before we see Jesus back on the score sheet. Let's just concentrate on his performance just for 1 minute over the last few. I know he hasn't scored since the North London derby and it's getting on people's nerves, but what I will say is the work rate, the assists, the creativity, the stuff that he does to create has been integral to what this team is about. I think the positive influence that Gabriel Jesus has had on not just Martinelli, but also Bukayo Saka this season has been clear. It's absolute night and day from the Lacazette and Aubameyang days. And I want to big up Arteta a little bit for that. Because I feel that last season, maybe the season before as well, I gave him a lot of stick saying that it doesn't matter who we play up top, he cannot get a striker scoring. Now, people might turn around and say that that's still true, Dan, because Jesus isn't scoring. But what he's doing is he's allowing, if Jesus doesn't score, the others to get involved and it's goals by committee. There's nobody that can tell me in the last couple of seasons who was going to score for Arsenal. Now, over the years, Thierry Henry, Robin van Persie, even Emmanuel Adebayor, Giroud, Aubameyang, it's not like that anymore. Not at this Arsenal setup. And to be fair, before Haaland came in, sometimes it was like that at Man City. Because if Aguero wasn't scoring, I'm not so sure he got that many golden boots, Aguero, as it goes. But if he wasn't scoring, then Sterling was, or Mahrez was, or De Bruyne was, or Bernardo Silva was. And this season we've seen that when Haaland's out, they're not struggling to score goals. And I think that's the route that Arteta wants to go down, is he wants to try and get goals by committee. So I want to look at how that's happening. Saka looks to be well on to double figures this season. Martinelli looks to be well on to double figures this season. Jesus, I think, will get double figures easily this season. Martin Odegaard and Granit Xhaka have been got on the score sheet a lot this season. Gabriel and Saliba have been scoring from corners so far this season. And I heard a stat the other day that only Aaron Ramsdale has not either created or scored or assisted a goal this season. And that just shows you what we're looking at in terms of a team at the moment. It's been absolutely fantastic as far as I'm concerned. Where Wolves can be got at, I think personally, is by pace, energy, and drive. And I know they've got quite good fullbacks and have had for a while, but I think they can get got at. I really do. Now, we'll come on to the team news in a little while and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I do think that down the sides in Zinchenko and Martinelli and Ben White and Saka, we've seen a lot of overlapping and we've seen a lot of improvement in those positions. I would go as far as to say that at fullback, we're pretty much sorted now if we want to go and win a title. With Ben White, Tomiyasu, and Zinchenko and Tierney and Tomiyasu that can play in both, I don't think we need to look at really doing much more there. You might want to get a replacement right back for Cedric. Maybe somebody like Tariq Lamptey would be a good option that can actually overlap. And then Ben White comes back into the centre. But the way I see it personally, Ben White has just been phenomenal at right back. And I wouldn't move a thing over there for me. He's been absolutely amazing. But that's really shown with Saka and Martinelli's performance that they've got somebody behind them. Do you remember, like, not long ago, where we were playing Pepe and Cedric, or Bellerin and Pepe, and it was just horrendous, that right-hand side. Now we've got Tomiyasu or Ben White, we've got Saka. Over on the left, we've got Martinelli or Smith Rowe, we've got Tierney or Zinchenko. We're starting to see now a little bit of strength and depth down the wide positions. We need to bring that into the centre now in January, and we'll come on to that towards the end of the show as to what I think we still might be looking to do, and hopefully some of the reliable source rumours that I've heard of players that we're interested in. Let's bring up this comment and super chat from Chaitanya. Chaitanya, big up yourself, bruv. Hope you're well, man. Says, Dan, big up. We know a lot about Arteta and Edu now. They get players that suit the process. Who are your realistic January signings? Danilo, Mudryk, or both? Well, let me answer that now. I was going to leave it to the end, but seeing as it's a super chat, we'll bring it up now before we go into the team news. Danilo and Mudryk are two players I expect Arsenal to go for this January, not in the summer. And the reason I say that is two things. The other targets that people are linking us with are summer moves for me. Milinkovic Savic, that's a summer move if it's a move at all that's realistic. Yuri Tielemans, yeah, we might go in with him, but actually Leicester are just going to say no thanks. We're going to keep him. We don't need your money. We're going to try and get as high as we can up the table with him, and he'll decide his next move. That could be a summer move. Wilfred Zaha, that could be a summer move, because I feel that he's going to ask for much more wages if he just hangs on, sees his time out at Palace, and then says, do you know what, Newcastle, Arsenal, offer me money and I'll go. That's a summer move. The other one I think that could be summer move is our links with strikers. I don't think that people's want for Tammy Abraham, Mitrovic, Ivan Toney, all these players people have been throwing at me, that's all going to happen in the summer. Why would Brentford or Fulham get rid of any of those players? Why would Roma want to get rid of Tammy Abraham? Not in January anyway. So the two that I think would potentially happen would be Danilo and Mudryk. Now, Mudryk is a left-sided forward or a left winger that can play on the right and cut in. Very technically gifted on the ball, has pace and power and drive towards goal, and has probably been one of the most creative sparks over at Shakhtar Donetsk. Ukrainian, so will of course work well with Zinchenko, and I'm sure be aware of him. And I think he's realistic, but it's going to cost a lot of money. Now, what I mean by that is he'd be happily talk to Arsenal, happily wants to come to Arsenal. We hear rumours that it's a definite interest. Rumours of a bid have been squashed by Fabrizio Romano. Rumours of a £52 million bid that Arsenal have made for Shakhtar Donetsk. Apparently, that's been rubbished, but we are interested and have strong interest in him for a January move. So watch this space. As for Danilo, that's a deal I know for a fact that we wanted to do in the summer. But they said that if you do want him in the summer, then you have to get his release clause, which is a crazy amount, something up to like 70 million or something like that. So Edu said, we'll go into January. And I know Edu's a fan of this guy as well, by the way. We'll go into January or the summer and look to come again. So I think this could be one that we get. Danilo would come in, be cover for Thomas Partey. He's a central defensive midfielder, 21 years old, highly rated over in Brazil. Brazil have been sniffing around him. He's not made the World Cup squad, but when he does normally get into the provisional squad, he's one of the only ones that gets in from Brazil. All of the others come from Europe. So that shows how highly they do rate him. He's not going to be as good as Thomas Partey. I mean, high ceiling wise, yeah, he could be in a few years' time, but certainly at the moment, he's not going to be one that slots in. You're not going to find another Thomas Partey replacement, guys, unless you go and buy Declan Rice or Rodri. It isn't going to happen, right? We need to go and find our own Rodri. We need to go and find our own Declan Rice, and that player could be Danilo. Who knows? So Danilo and Modric, to be fair, Tanya, are two realistic options, brother, and I think that we should be going in for both of those. And I think that if we were to get two of those plus one more, maybe across the forward lineup, maybe another striker who's better than Eddie, then yeah, I think that'd be a very, very good window, and we could look to push for a title. So fair play. Get your questions in, guys. I'm really interested to get your questions. Make sure you put a Q on it, though. Otherwise, I won't know that it's a question. When I'm looking at them all coming in, it's a hell of a lot easier for me to just see the little Q. So let's go on to the team news then. These are the teams that I think is going to happen. Tried to do what I can in terms of the Wolves setup, because I do believe that there's a couple of options that they've got. But I'm not quite sure, really. Let me know what you guys think. This is a team that I think, anyway, Arsenal will go with. Aaron Ramsdale in goal. At right back, Ben White. At left back, Zinchenko. I think Saliba and Gabriel will form a partnership that has been formidable of late and continue that. Thomas Partey, who I thought was man of the match for me anyway against Chelsea, will be that holding midfielder, and Granit Xhaka will be in that left 8 with Ødegaard pushing forward in that right 8. And then, of course, a front three of Martinelli on the left, Saka on the right, and Jesus through the middle. I think for me, one of the most important players in this whole setup is Thomas Partey, because we know that Neves and Moutinho can be an absolute beast. And I think yet again, you'll see Thomas Partey come through and for me, be one of our most important players. As for Wolves, I've gone with what I believe is probably going to be similar to their last game against Brighton. Jose Sarr in goal, Collins and Kilman forming a partnership at centre-backs. Semedo, who comes back from his suspension, because it was only a one game that he got suspended for, and that, of course, was the Carabao Cup against Leeds that they won the other night. I don't know if they're going to go for Aït-Nouri or if they're going to go for Bueno, but I think Bueno has been their preferred option at left back, so I've put him in. Neves, Moutinho, and Traore, I think, will probably be their three. That is Boubacar Traore, not Adama Traore, because obviously he plays further forward, Adama Traore. So Boubacar Traore alongside Neves. And if Moutinho isn't going to make it, it probably will be Nunez, who is coming back, I believe, for this game. So watch this space. It could be Nunez who goes in for Moutinho. And then a front three of Guedes, Hichan, and Podence. Now, obviously, we spoke earlier about how Diego Costa is suspended, Raul Jimenez is not fit, and of course, Pedro Neto is also injured. But we could see Adama Traore coming in for either Podence or Guedes. But it will be interesting to see, because Adama Traore probably, from what I'm hearing from Wolves fans, deserves to be playing. But a lot of Wolves fans are not expecting him to start, and they're expecting him to come off the bench. And to be fair, it's quite a good sub for Wolves to have. That team, I've got to be honest with you, does not scare me as much as it should. If Pedro Neto's on there, if Costa or Jimenez are on there, if Adama Traore is on there, I'm looking at that team thinking, wow, they've got some serious players there that can hurt us. Now, I know Hichan and I know that Neves and Moutinho have been great over the years. I know Podence is a skillful player and Guedes has been impressive since he's come in. But none of them fill me with fear. I think if I was a Wolves fan, I'd look at Jesus, Martinelli and Saka with Ødegaard behind them and be a lot more scared than I would with their lineup. So it would be interesting to see how we do start this game. We have started the game really, really well of the last few that we've seen 13 games in. But what I will say is that once we have got that first half performance where we've seemed to have blitzed them, the second half has never really been superb. So I'm hoping to see a consistent performance in both halves this game against Wolves. As for an understanding of a score prediction, I've said 2-0 Arsenal all along, and I'm going to stand by it. And the reason I'm going to stand by it is because I don't think that Wolves score many goals. Now, I know they did against Brighton, but they have been struggling of late to score a hatful. but they do concede goals. They scored 2, but conceded 3 against Brighton. Okay, they went down to 10 men, but the defense has not been amazing this season. And I do believe personally that Wolves have got a little bit of a tricky season ahead of them. Now, I'm not getting cocky and confident saying this is going to be a walk in the park. We could quite easily drop points here because it's a game of football. But all I will say is I believe personally that Wolves have got a bit of a struggle and they're going to accept that if they lose to Arsenal, it's not the end of the world. They want to pick up points in every single game, but they understand that this one is not vital. There's going to be games against Leeds, against Bournemouth, against Fulham, against Forest that they're going to have to get 3 points that probably look like being 6 points if we are in and around that relegation zone, which they are at the moment. And I would say there are 3 teams playing worse football than them in the league at the moment. I think Forest have really struggled. Bournemouth can't seem to buy a win at the moment. Leeds have been very inconsistent. And Southampton have sacked Ralph because of how poor they've been. I think Wolves are probably in and around them at the moment, but certainly wouldn't be my tip to go down because I think they have got enough quality. So, of course, this is going to be a very tough game. Let's take some of your questions. This one's coming from Mark Taylor. Big up yourself, Mark. Says, playing in a World Cup for any player is a dream. I don't think the players going to the World Cup will be 100% full on in case of injury. Your thoughts, mate, especially the Brazilian guys. The reason I'm going to disagree with that is because I do believe that although they want this World Cup and their absolute dream is there, I don't think it will affect their performance. I think they'll sometimes look potentially of the duels and the energy and the duels and the battles of not going in quite as hard as they would, knowing that they could get a twist or a sprain or an ankle injury that could see them out. But I don't think it will be a what am I trying to say? I don't think it will be a we don't care attitude is what I'm trying to get at. I think it might be in their minds that, yeah, I don't want to go in too hard to this tackle just in case I miss out on the World Cup. Lucas replied, says, the thing is, Mark, if the World Cup bound players aren't fully focused, there's not a lot we can do. Our B team players have proved to be useless. They offer nothing, whether starting or coming off the bench. I think you're absolutely bang on there, Luke. And I think it's clear to see that we are very short in terms of our squad depth. There's a lot to go wrong. If we get a few injuries, I'll tell you that now. And I think that when you look at that team that lost to Brighton, Brighton made 8 changes. So it wasn't Brighton's first team. So let's just be honest with that. Krista says, big up, Dan. Always love your podcast, especially when Lee's on. Always great chat. Thanks very much, man. Much appreciated. A big striker or target man. What about Weghorst? He's a player I would have actually taken last season. I thought Weghorst was a player that, let's be honest, did all right for Burnley, scored a few goals and was in a terrible side. Always has been a target man. And I think we missed that aerial threat. I think we could do better than Wout Weghorst. But I do believe personally that we need somebody who's a different profile striker that's an aerial threat and that's somebody that can be more of an Olivier Giroud type player. Mudryk would be a great but expensive January signing. Yeah, they're looking at around 50 to 55 million from what I'm hearing. So it is going to be honest. James Bonds says that we have to press Wolves so Traore doesn't get into the space behind Zinchenko. Chelsea was trying to do that, but a player like Traore with pace and space can be more trouble. I agree with that. I really do. I feel that Adama Traore is going to come on and cause some issues. And I think that Zinchenko is a player that you can get behind. Great footballer, but he can get caught out positionally. And his discipline needs to be a little better at times for me, but fantastic on the ball. He really is. Newcastle top 4. Yeah, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for Newcastle top 4. Who in place of, I hear you say? Man City, Arsenal, I hate to say it, Spurs and Newcastle. I think Conte will do enough when Spurs when he's got their players back. Son when he comes back, Richarlison comes back, Kulusevski comes back, Romero comes back. I think they've got some injuries at the moment, and it's definitely showing because they have got a really weak squad. But I do fancy them for top 4. I don't think Liverpool's midfield or defence is good enough to show any form of consistency. I think Chelsea are in transition and all over the place, and I still don't think without a striker that Man United don't have that they're going to go anywhere other than top 6 competition. So I think Newcastle, 1 game a week, going to spend in January, and I think the players they get in January will give them a massive chance at top 4. 1 game a week and a cup run, top 4, a cup run. I think they'd be amazing to have fan base that will say that they are definitely deserved of top 4, to be honest. Arnie says, get the likes up, people. Make sure that you do, please, guys. I'd absolutely love it if you could get me to more subscribers and more likes. All about the likes and subscribers for this channel to grow, so I much appreciate it. And guys, we're going to leave it there. It's been a good stream as ever. Great content, great comments, great interaction from you all. We're going to be providing even more content from you on a post-match show after the game tomorrow. So be sure to join me there. And we're going to be back next week for the last one before the World Cup, talking all things race for Europe with Lawless and Tobes and Errol and the guys. And of course, we're going to be joined by the Premier League fan debate. If you haven't seen that, by the way, make sure you tune in last night, because straight away, not even 5 minutes in, Lawless and D going absolutely at it at each other. Lawless was invited onto the other show, yeah, he got absolutely cooked. So make sure you go and listen to that if you haven't done so already. And Emilio's rant on how overrated Harry Kane is. You don't want to miss that one, people. So make sure you do smash a like on this on your way out. Check out the previous video. And we will see you next time when hopefully Arsenal have taken 3 points at Molineux and we're top of the league going into Christmas. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.